Will all the aldermen please take their seats? I'd like to start the meeting on time, as always. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today is December 2nd, 2024. We welcome you to the December meeting of the Milford Board of Aldermen. Please join me as we salute our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Secretary, will you please take the roll?
Alderman Archiola.
Present.
Alderman Beatty.
Alderman Beatty would like to be excused, Madam Secretary.
Thank you. Alderman Bevan. Here. Alderman Casey.
Here.
Alderman Federico.
Here.
Alderman Fowler.
Here.
Alderman Healy.
Here.
Alderman Jenkins. Here. Alderman Marlowe.
Here.
Alderman Mulrennan.
Here.
Alderman Pacelli.
Here.
Alderman Smith.
Here.
Alderman Vitro.
Here.
Alderman Vitale. Alderman Willis.
Here.
14 are present.
We have 14 present. We do have a quorum. Thank you, Madam Secretary. The next portion of the meeting is devoted to public comment. Statements are strictly limited to the legislative function of the Board of Aldermen. Please use every effort to limit public speaking to the permissible business of the Board of Aldermen, and the time limit granted to each speaker should be 3 minutes. Residents, taxpayers, and electors may address the board at this time. The board encourages speakers not to express derogatory, insensitive, or offensive statements, or to engage in personal attacks against individuals. In order to allow everyone an opportunity to speak, I'd ask that everyone please limit their comments to 3 minutes. Please keep in mind that the structure of our meeting does not allow for two-way dialogue during public comment or to answer any of your questions. Residents can contact their district alderman by phone or by email regarding any issue of concern for the purpose of obtaining general information or guidance on what city agency may be of assistance. We welcome and appreciate your comments and opinions regarding city business and community matters. All your concerns will be taken into consideration. We thank you for your cooperation. Anyone wishing to address the board can do so at this time. Please state your name and address clearly for the record.
Security.
One of the questions asked in the food survey, again developed by the Health Department of Milford, is how do you access food? 19% of the people responded that they access their food through Milford churches and schools. 14% of the people said that they access their food via the Purple Pantry boxes, and 10% of the people responded that they got their food from the food bank at the Milford Senior Center. Purple Pantry boxes is designed for barrier-free access. You do not need permission to get food. You do not need to ask for food. You don't need to apply for food. It's an open-door policy. You walk up to one of the pantries, you take food out, you walk away. We fill every pantry every single day. 3 of the pantries we are filling twice a day because the need is so great in those areas that we have to do what we call a PM filling. A lot of the people who use our pantries are employed, and the money just doesn't stretch enough for them to have safe food. We are also doing home deliveries now because transportation is a huge barrier for people to access food. And this year, for the first time, we did Thanksgiving food deliveries, and we will be doing the same for Christmas. We deliver the food because transportation, I'm going to say it again, is a huge barrier. We work with all of the food groups in Milford that are nonprofits. We have text chains with everybody. If someone needs something, we do our best to help everybody. We work very closely with Bethel. It is, to date, we are distributing 18,000, I'm going to say it again, 18,000 pieces of food every single month in Milford, and that's only through the pantry system. It does not include our home delivery work. So Thanksgiving, that's not in that number. That's only through the pantries. Food is a right. It is not a privilege. Everybody needs food to function. Everybody needs food to get through their day. We keep adding and changing how we distribute food to adjust to people's needs. If you don't have transportation to get food, we will bring it to you. We don't ask people to give information that we don't need we don't need metadata. We give food to people who need help. And that is our goal. Food is a right, it is not a privilege, and that is what we live by every day. Thank you very much.
My name is Mark Lofthouse. I live at 56 Wilbar Avenue, Milford, Connecticut. I'd like to commend Purple Pantry for all the work they do. I didn't come down here to talk about this originally, but when I heard what was going on, I was really taken aback by how wonderful these people are, all the volunteers that come out and make every bowl full in the city of Milford. Thank you. 2 reasons I'm here. 1, Mr. Mayor, any idea on that Milford Museum Committee? Sometime soon? I'm just reminding you. You got those ducks sitting in your office. So, the big reason I'm here, and I know you pulled it off the agenda tonight, was the greenway along the water at Wilcox Park. I originally saw that project had gone through, and I kind of cocked an eye at it a little bit. I understand the need for it. When I was on the zoning board, we had talked about the greenway along the water, and it was part of the plan of development. But changing that road direction to make that an intersection that goes left, right, people are going to go straight and cut straight through Wilcox Park. It's become a straightaway. You're sending a road right between 4 ball fields, a playground, a tennis court, a paddleball court, a boat ramp, a basketball court, a library. There's placid activity down there that doesn't need through traffic. Everybody who doesn't want to go down to the intersection of New Haven Avenue and Gulf Street and take a right, they're going to take a right and go through there. It's a safety issue. Again, I commend the effort put forth to make that greenway nicer, but I think moving that road where they're moving it is going to be problematic, if not a catastrophe for some poor child. And we've all had children here. Try to control them. You know, they're running everywhere. I just want to ask you to reconsider the direction that you're taking with that. I know there's state money here and you're going to approve acceptance of it, but before you do, it's not a done deal until you break ground and all the concrete's poured and done. It's on paper. It's safety of children. I think you should really consider making some changes to that. Again, move forward with the effort, but relocate that road. If anything, do a taking on the road that's on the water side, move it to the left and add a little more greenway to the water side. Far less expensive, but I think the safety issue is so high here. I don't know if anybody was on a committee here. I don't even know, was this a Milford committee? I'm not sure. I don't remember seeing it or hearing about it, but when I did, the first thing I saw of was it's going to become a straightaway. It's going to be a racetrack. So that's all I really have to say. I really ask you to reconsider moving that road where you're going to move it. It's going to be a disaster. Thank you.
My name is Charles Montalbano. I live at 30 Revere Place, Milford, Connecticut. No one should have to worry about where their next meal will come from. That's why Purple Pantry is here, to fight food insecurity and bring hope to those in need. The mission is simple, yet powerful, to ensure that every person, regardless of their circumstances, has access to nutritious and sufficient food. With the support of generous donors and passionate volunteers, Purple Pantry works tirelessly to distribute food to families, individuals, and children who need it most. As a commissioner of the Public Housing Authority, it's clear that these efforts have made a significant difference in our town. On our property, there are 4 Purple Pantry boxes, which provide non-perishable food for anyone who needs it. These boxes are well used by our residents, offering them a reliable source of food during difficult times. This tangible impact in our own backyard illustrates the importance and effectiveness of Purple Pantry's mission. However, the need continues to grow, and we need the support of the city to meet it. Including Purple Pantry as a line item in the city budget will help ensure that they can continue their work and even expand upon it. This financial backing would allow them to maintain and increase the number of Purple Pantry boxes, enhance our food distribution capabilities, and provide more substantial support to those in need. We can't leave funding for this important work to charities and grants alone. It is our responsibility as a city to take care of our people. Together, we can create a community where no one has to face the uncertainty of hunger. Let's stand united in making hunger a problem of the past. Please support Purple Pantry. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. My name is Teresa Eek, and I live at 47 Point Beach Drive, and I'm here to support Purple Pantry boxes. Before I start, could I get a show of hands of how many people here support the Purple Pantry boxes? Okay. I'm sure they're not all going to come up and speak. I was the director of Wheat, a food pantry in West Haven from 1985 to 2005, and I've been a member of All In for Milford for the last 3 years. I'm all too familiar with the issues of food insecurity. Wheat was, like many food pantries, only open certain days and certain hours. People had to bring in various proofs of various things, and they were only allowed to access food a handful of times a year. I found it very frustrating. It wasn't enough, and it was wrong. I knew people were going hungry every single day, not just a few times a year. I don't know about you, but I eat every day, usually several times a day, especially at the holidays. Over 25% of Milford residents are chronically food insecure, not just a couple times a year. That's 1 in 4 people in our community. You may not realize it, but you cross paths with people every single day who are food insecure. If you're food insecure, just getting enough food every day becomes a full-time job. Some days this pantry's open, some days that pantry's open. They're open certain hours, you have to bring different proofs, they're difficult to get to, and a lot of people who need food work. They can't get there during their working hours. A lot of people don't have transportation. There are people who have young children. It's very difficult to bring 2 or 3 kids on a public bus to pick up some groceries between certain hours and carry that bag by yourself. There are a lot of people who are elderly who are food insecure, and a lot of people who are differently abled as well. I hope to God that none of you ever experience that. Purple Pantry Box is the only source of food that's available every day, day or night, no questions asked. They're strategically located close to public transportation, and no one is turned away, no one is shamed, and no one is stigmatized. The fact that there are 13 Purple Pantry Boxes in Milford alone that are filled every day, sometimes more than once, demonstrates the critical service that they need. Food is not an occasional luxury. It never has been. It is a necessity for all of us. Everyone should have enough to eat, no questions asked. And this is the Purple Pantry Box's guiding principle. So I thank you and I urge you to support Purple Pantry Boxes.
Good evening. My name is Rich D'Onofrio. I reside at 159 Westfield Road in Milford. I'm a 50-year Milford resident, also a member of All In for Milford, and a board member at the Woodruff YMCA, where we have had one of the Purple Pantry Boxes in operation since 2020. I've personally observed the workings of the Purple Pantry volunteers and have also provided support for their efforts. I have firsthand knowledge of the impressive and quality service that PPB provides. In addition, the leadership team at the Y has confirmed to me that their box has provided over 300 meals in most recent quarter, and that it expects to continue to do so indefinitely. Thank you for your attention, and in short, I'm a PPB fan. Thank you.
I'm Sarah Bromley, 27 Norway Street. I'm late because I just rushed over from Trader Joe's where I picked up an entire carload full of donated food. A lot of it, most of it perishable. Not all that much of it could be put in a Purple Pantry Box. And I always feel sad about that because we know that fresh fruits and vegetables are way healthier than the non-perishable stuff that we can put safely in Purple Pantry Boxes. I don't know if the people before me have mentioned this, but we know Purple Pantry Boxes are the only place right now where you can just go anytime, regardless of your schedule, regardless of whatever, to get food around here. Nobody grills you or asks for your ID. One thing that really worries me, concerns me, is that the ALICE data. For people who aren't familiar, and has that already been talked about, Alice? Okay, so I won't go into it. The fact that the ALICE data went up by 13%, we've already covered that? We have not covered it. Oh, okay, so I know you can't answer that, so I'm asking them. So, ALICE is the term, stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed, working folks, working their butts off. And a lot of us still have trouble making ends meet with inflation. Statewide, it's about 30% of individuals in the state are in the position in an ALICE place in their household. It's a household that are employed but unable to afford the basics of living, like food, housing, transportation, healthcare, childcare. So the ALICE threshold is that minimum cost of living in a household that United Way comes up with. They are the ones who get this data. And so 30% of Connecticut, higher in the cities, around 30%. So like you say, every third house, we don't know what's in their fridge. That number has increased by 13%. It's crazy. So I add my voice to those who came before me and asking that, it's just such need. It's hidden a lot of times, but it's increasing. And I really hope that we'll think with compassion and empathy of all the neighbors who are struggling and find a way to get purple pantries on the budget, the city budget. So thank you very much for your time.
Hi there, Mike Smith, 228 Shadyside Lane. I'm here as a proud Foreign High swim team alum and Aquajets alum, and because of those programs I was able to swim in college. And currently I have the pleasure of watching my almost 9-year-old discover that same love of swimming as she swims at Aquajets. I'm really happy and excited to hear that there's an agreement between the club and the city so they can continue to do the good work they're doing. It would certainly be devastating if a club like Aquajets with a storied history had to close because of negotiations with the city and the rent was too much, especially after a season, Foreign High girls season that was so successful, and many of those members do swim on that team year-round. For those of you who aren't swimmers, I can't stress how different swimming is from other sports. I was a co-captain of my college swim team, rode varsity crew while I was in college, and have done half Ironmans and other things like that. Swimming, unlike many other sports, is a year-round commitment. You need to stay in shape, training in the water to be the best you can be. And if we were to lose an asset like Aquajets, our young people would be severely disadvantaged. And they would have to look to other communities to find those resources. And I think it's fair to say that everyone in this room is proud to call Milford their home. And we want to make sure that we shine bright without having to have people look to other communities to find the resources that and opportunities where we currently have and hope to continue to have. I'd like to take a quick moment to encourage the board, the mayor, and the rec department, who I'll talk to them at their next meeting, but really trying to better utilize our underutilized asset of the Foreign High pool. So we talked a lot about the McCann Natatorium, but the Foreign High pool, when I was young, I remember taking swim lessons there. When my daughter was young, I have one of my most cherished photos of her when she was about 4 years old. We had weekend swim lessons at the Foreign High pool. I have her in my arms with, at that point, I still had the 100 breaststroke record. So my 4-year-old daughter is in my arms with my record on the record board behind me. Since then, proud to say the record's been broken by another Aquajets alum, and that's how it should be. Crazy my record stood that long. But I really want to make sure that we're providing the opportunities for our community to succeed and utilizing the resources we have and not being too focused on things that don't lift up our residents. It is something that I hope we can have more access to. Right now, the rec department doesn't look like they're running any programs at the Foreign High pool. Certainly there's logistical challenges, managing around 3 girls swim teams in the fall, 1 boys swim team in the winter season, and then Camp Happiness in the summer during those hours. So I'm just really excited that swimming and access is a priority of our community, and very happy to be a part of that tradition and hopefully be a part of it for many years more. Thank you.
Good evening. Michelle Tessier, 11 Joanne Drive. Currently, I'm on the board for the Wildermere Beach Association, and I'm here for the topic of beach erosion. We recently held a meeting in October with our Wildermere Beach Association with over 90 residents in attendance. The biggest topic of discussion was beach erosion. Our association supports the project proposed in 2017 and the mayor's willingness to address and review this. At the same time, we also support putting forth all short and long-term options as we have an immediate need for solutions. Our beach and our community are eroding away. We look forward to finding solutions in the near future. Thank you, Mayor, and all of our aldermen for your time on this pressing issue.
Hi, my name is Mary E. Oak, better known as Emmy. I came here today to congratulate you on a few things. Did not know about the Purple Pantry, and I must say I do support them wholeheartedly. The increase of people going hungry is continuing to increase. It's not just here, it's everywhere if you listen to the news. So I hope you're able to help them proceed to expand and help others. A we concept, not an I concept way of thinking. But what I came to say, one of the things is, I'm glad that you've agreed to deal with cameras, to do with traffic. It's badly needed. Yes, I too don't like Big Brother watching, but I did come from a country that's had them for a long time on every major roads and on what they call A roads and B roads. They're not on the C roads, which is almost like a dirt track. And it works. It forces the traffic to slow down and obey. And that's all it's dealing with. It's not watching you to be able to do anything else. But I must say, I am glad you've decided to do it. There is one junction down the street here on River Street and where Dorinna meets. I've nearly been run over 3 separate times the last 6 months walking what I call a zebra crossing, what I think you call as a walkway, across River Street, right at about the post office, going to the other side. Somebody kindly stopped. The person behind was impatient, coming off the side road on one side of this hall, and wanted to turn onto Dorinna and just about knocked me down. So I hope something is done with that junction, possibly a blinking light, like you have on the other side of the train tracks, so that we don't have a death on our hands. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's experienced it. The other thing I'd like to congratulate you on is the scrap pickup. I know it's on a volunteer basis. Again, I'd like to see it become permanent as part of the pickup. Again, the country I come from have had it in existence of pickup for over 20 years. I know we Europeans are ahead when it comes to environment. I do understand in this country it's so big, you think there's so much space. I get it. I come from a country that's much smaller. We had to react quicker. So I hope you don't leave it too long to become permanent, because I think when you do become permanent, you'll get a much better reaction from the public to do it, because it does help in so many ways. And one last thing I didn't know that was going to turn up, a gentleman talk about, was the aquajets, which I'm a strong supporter of, since I am an ex-swimmer, competitive swimmer from when I was younger. I am thrilled that something is materializing and helps future swimmers, and you keep the history of it in this town. Thank you. Bye-bye. I meant to say I was from 30 Dorinna Place, and I don't think I said it. Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Carol Thomas, 84 Thompson Street. I'm here to speak up for the children of Milford, the ones who have no voices. I'm speaking in opposition to the road proposed at Founder's Walk. Currently, there are no stop signs proposed at the crosswalk from the parking lot to the playground. There's only one stop sign proposed at the end of the road, and that's for boaters. It's not a safe crosswalk for children. There's no speed bumps. All my research has shown that if you put a road in a complex, you put it on the perimeter of the complex, not down the middle of the complex. I understand there's concerns regarding the library parking lot. Let's address those concerns and make that safer for people over there. I have no problem with that. I'm concerned about the speed on the proposed road. It will be a straight shot coming down a hill off of New Haven Avenue. It will go between the parking lot and the playground. Now, I understand this $4 million is for beautification. How is a road in the middle of a complex beautification? Let's add a fountain. Let's add a gazebo, flower gardens, fans in the pavilion, lighting in the pavilion, benches, picnic tables, umbrellas. Let's do what we have to do to make that green space that we currently have valuable. Let's not move the green space from one section to another section. I would also like to thank Alderman Willis, Alderman Pacelli, and Alderman Marlowe for taking their time to speak with me over this holiday weekend, as well as Chairman Vitro. I'm not opposed to this project. I am opposed to the road in the middle of the complex. Thank you and have a great night.
Hi, my name is Sarah Wood. I live at 198 Gulf Street. I'm also here to talk about the Founders Walk project, which is a plan not only about safety, but about making Milford an even better place to live, visit, and enjoy. My wife and I bought a home here about several years ago, and we either walk, ride, or jog through that area daily. And so I do have a personal stake in this. And we see the benefits, but since there are some questions and complaints, I just want to kind of break it down. Right now, cars whip through a parking lot road meant for access to a kid's playground, sports areas, and library visitors. They gain speed up Shipyard Lane. I've watched it happen nearly daily. It's like a freaking test track. It's awful. And families with strollers are sharing that road with cars, and children are darting across unmarked roads to get to basketball courts or the playground or the pavilion. It's chaotic, it's unsafe, and frankly, unacceptable. Founders Walk, this project will transform the area by prioritizing pedestrian safety and will make the entire harbor area more beautiful. We're talking about a scenic walkway along the harbor where families can enjoy the view without fearing for their lives. No more families with strollers playing dodge the cars on their way to the library. No more kids weaving through unmarked parking lots to get to the basketball court. Instead, we'll have proper sidewalks, proper crosswalks, and a designated pathway for everyone to enjoy. And there will be even more safety upgrades. There will be traffic slowing measures, like narrowed roads, stamped crosswalks, and a new stop sign. It will all make sure vehicles slow down, unlike now. There's been some confusion floating around about what this project does, especially about the access to baseball fields. So let's clear that up. The project actually looks to make it easier and safer to get to the fields, not harder. Families heading to the games will have clear pathways and crosswalks where they need to go to without the current risks that are currently there. But here's the thing, it's not just about the baseball fields. And I get it, baseball's big. My nephews play baseball, everything's great. But we have to improve safety for everyone. This project will add fences and crosswalks around the playground to keep kids safe while they play. And let's be honest, no matter the decade, playgrounds should always have supervision, especially these days. Parents should be with their kids, or caregivers should be with their kids, and this makes it easier and safer for parents and caregivers. This project should also improve drainage to tackle the flooding and add drive-through book drop-off for the library. So this project basically checks all of the boxes. And here's the kicker, this project is fully funded by state appropriations. not a single cent of city funding. So it seems like a no-brainer. And I get it, people are like, well, those are our taxpayer dollars. Yes, they are our taxpayer dollars being used on us, the taxpayers. So why the sudden resistance from some folks, particularly after we had extensive public debate where even Republicans were on board? It's baffling, really. Now it's suddenly a problem. It's almost like people are looking for a reason to argue. So let's be clear. This isn't about partisanship. It's about making Milford safer and more enjoyable and more accessible for everyone. Families deserve a space where they can enjoy our harbor, our playgrounds, our fields, and our library without worrying about speeding cars or flooding. Founders Walk is the future of Milford. It's safe, scenic, and community-focused. Let's not let sudden political games distract us from that vision. We had the debate, we agreed, and now it's time to move forward. And many thanks to Senator Maroney for getting this done for our community. Thank you for your time.
Hi, Bob Thomas, 84 Thompson Street. My kids went through the baseball program down there. I'm sure my grandchildren, whenever they come, will go through the baseball program down there. Putting that road through the middle is with no stop signs, no speed bumps, nothing to slow cars down or boats, trailers, is going to be dangerous. It'll only be a matter of time before a child just gets out of the car, like they do right now, and run across the parking lot to go to the playgrounds. It's an accident waiting to happen, and I wouldn't like to see that happen. Leaving the road where it is, adding some crosswalks over there from the walkway on the right-hand side to the left so they can get to the pavilion, putting more money into the pavilion, adding a stage, adding lighting, maybe more benches and stuff, and onto that, adding things in where they want to put the road right now, putting picnic tables over there, benches, whatever, would be much better than changing the road the way it is now. The road in front of the library, that whole parking lot could be reconfigured to the way they want it, which has nothing to do with changing that road to go down between the fields. It's just going to be dangerous. There's a lot of foul balls. There's a lot of kids running back and forth, and inevitably in my eyes I see something bad happening, and I wouldn't want to see that happen to the city. Thank you.
John Wazensky, 4 Carriage Path North. I know you guys took it off the agenda for the evening and posted it all over, which likely saved you guys some time tonight, and I'll try to save you a little more. But I come here to represent one of the baseball leagues and discuss the road project behind the library. I just want to be very clear. I do not question Senator Maroney's motives for wanting to do phase 2 of his project. He was nice enough to meet with us, but quite frankly, members of the league just question the overall safety of the project itself. It strikes me that there are other ways to bring safety to all the areas down there without moving the road. I've heard from parents of baseball players in both leagues, basketball players, random playground users, as well as some local businesses who just don't understand the necessity for the change. On a personal note, I have to say, I'm not a lifelong Milford resident, but the atmosphere you guys have created down there with the fields, parks, playgrounds, and pavilion is amazing. It's great for the community, it's great for local businesses, and I'm not personally sure why you would want to break that up. At some point, we have to trust the people who are down there every night from March 1st to November 1st. So I come here tonight with this plea. The latest downtown plan of conservation development was in 2012. That's 12 years ago. Many of the parents using the parks now, they were in college or even high school back then. It's time to conduct those focus groups again with the addition of a road cutting through the playground area, which was not part of the original discussion. The project has waited this long. We do not see what the harm would be in having those discussions again before making a significant change to an area that impacts a large portion of the community. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to address the board at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 3, consideration of minutes. Alderman Pacelli.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Aldermen held on November 7th, 2024.
Second. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Bevan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. On page 7, to where I made an amendment on the pay increase of the...
Could you give a couple of talks?
I'm going to take a moment to wait until the auditorium gets emptied out. Go ahead, Alderman Bevan.
Thank you. On page 7, I made an amendment to increase the salaries of the Register of Voters. My statement was for January 1st, 2026, by a minimum of 2.5%, not the 2.5. It was a minimum of that, based on equal percent of the increase of the mayor's office and the city clerk's office. Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor with the addition from Alderman Bevan? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Alderman Pacelli, consideration of minutes of the special organization meeting. There wasn't any. Agenda item number 5, Chairman's report and recommendations. It came to my attention that I just want to remind the board, according to the charter, we are called aldermen, not alders. I've heard that word alders used quite a bit, and that's maybe New Haven or other places, but Milford, we are all aldermen. That's number 1. And number 2, anyone wishing to speak, of course, and be recognized by the chairman, you really should start off your message by saying, Mr. Chairman. There's been a number of times I've noticed where some of the members just wanted to, enthusiastic as they might be, they want to just get their word across. They start off without saying Mr. Chairman first. So I'd appreciate it if you all would respect the chairmanship in that respect. Also, wishing all the members of the Board of Aldermen and all the residents of Milford a very Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and Happy Hanukkah, and all stay safe and happy for the new year. Next on the agenda would be the mayor's report. Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. It's great to be back at City Hall. I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend. It was a weekend full of community events. I attended the Thanksgiving Day football game It was a monsoon, but it was a great game. Jonathan Law ended up winning the game at Law. It was 3-0. It was a tough game for everyone. And I also attended the annual tree lighting, and I want to thank those people that came out in the community. I saw some of you there as well. Thank you for attending. It was a great turnout. I think it was a record crowd. And for the first time, I don't know if this tradition will continue, but there was a young couple who got engaged at the gazebo. So it was quite the event. Brian Smith always does a great job. There was wonderful Christmas music. So I'd like to thank the Milford Concert Band, the fire department, the police department, and the Public Works Department. I don't know how many of you know Tom Hunt personally, but Tom Hunt did a great job with the Christmas lights. Him and his crew, you know, they continue to add to our lighting. We had the tunnel of lights down the far end of the green. If you see, the duck pond is lit. There's a tree down there, and all in front of downtown City Hall. It's an amazing place. Milford becomes magical during the holidays. And I also want to thank the Devon Rotary for donating all of the wreaths that are on the lamp posts. That's another great addition to our community. So we're so blessed. I got nothing but compliments from people that live in town. They came out with their families, and also people visiting us on the holiday, and they were truly impressed. So it made me feel good. The other thing is that you probably heard we sent out an Everbridge. The fire band has been uplifted by the fire marshal. So I just like to note that. And we do have some events this month that I think are worth mentioning to the board. The first one is the Downtown Milford Business Association 22nd Annual Lamp Light Stroll, which will take place this Friday, December 6th, from 5 to 9. You could come downtown. Santa Claus will be there, the carolers will be there, and also some vendors. Keeping Milford Warm is hosted by Kevin McGrath. It's a great event. Annual fundraiser will take place next Saturday, December 14th, and this group does an amazing job to help those in need for fuel, oil for their houses to heat in the winter months. And on Sunday, December 15th, the Milford community will come together for the lighting. This is a very special event as well. The buoy tree at Listman Landing at 4:30 at the marina, and I'm sure most of you have seen the buoy tree. It's quite the thing. We will be attended by Santa Claus, and Mrs. Claus will be there, I'm being told. So once again, just want to wish everyone a happy and healthy holiday season. It's the best time of the year. Also want to thank Emma Johnson, my administrative assistant, for getting the poinsettias here in City Hall. So we have a very festive chamber tonight. So with that being said, Mr. Chairman, if there's any questions, I would ask for your consideration, excluding item 8D and 8E, which was removed by the request of Senator Maroney, as you already know. But I would ask for your consideration from items 8A to 8I, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm here to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next item on the agenda is item number 7, unfinished business. There isn't any.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, yeah. Alderman Healy.
Through you to the mayor. Mr. Mayor, I'd also like to extend on behalf of myself, and I believe the Board of Aldermen, when I drove up to City Hall this evening and drove around the green and looked at the amazing job the Department of Public Works and its men and women have done in beautifying our city and the town hall and all the work that they have done in preparation for the holidays. I really want to extend a heartfelt thank you to Director Saley and all the members of his staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Healy. Next item on the agenda is agenda item number 8, new business.
Agenda item number 8A, Board of Aldermen approval is requested for the attached City of Milford Community Rating System Annual Progress Report on implementation of credited plan and to authorize the mayor, open space manager, floodplain administrator, and inland wetlands agent to take all steps necessary, including signing all documents to effectuate said program.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there someone here who could address some questions about this plan, or do we have maybe?
Mary Rose Palumbo is here, Alderman Smith, to answer any questions you may have.
Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Palumbo, this is the the South Central Regional Council of Governments Regional Planning Mitigation Plan, as I understand it.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, this is the annual update for the South Central Regional Council of Governments Hazard Mitigation Plan. that Milford participates in. There's 15 towns in the regional plan. It was updated in 2023. And as a requirement of that plan and our CRS program, we need to do something called a hazard mitigation action tracker on an annual basis. So we review that at the Hazard Mitigation Working Group with Public Works, myself, and several others. It's an updated list of items that the city would like to do for various ways to mitigate hazards in the city, mostly flooding, and what the cost would be and where that funding could come from. And should their grants become available, we can reach back to this program and to this spreadsheet and pull those out. Items can be added at any time. It's not a frozen list, it's a living list, and it's brought to you annually for your review.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could, so this is, what we have here is just an update. I see there's a reference here out to a website where we can go, and it looks like it says we can actually review the plan. Is that?
Right. The Hazard Mitigation Plan, the South Central Regional Council of Governments Plan, is a 449-page document that covers all 15 towns, and then there's an additional document called the Milford Annex that you can reach either on the Council of Governments Plan or on the City of Milford Emergency Management webpage.
So this plan's 429 pages long in total? Is that what I heard you say?
No, there's 449 pages for the whole 15 county, and then there's another additional, I forget, I think there's another 100 or so pages for Milford.
Okay. This is just a kind of a difficult thing. I've never seen this before, and it gets delivered to us the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. And for those of us who were traveling, I saw this for the first time this afternoon. I didn't get to go through all 429 pages or the 100 that apply to Milford, but I did try to go through the 7 pages that are attached to this, and I'm not sure who put this together, but man, the font is so small. It is impossible to read. Frankly, it took me a couple of hours to work my way through it, but I did try to work my way through it. And I have some, Mr. Chairman, I have some fairly specific questions. I think there are 49 identified items here. But an overall question is, why are we being asked to vote on this update?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the aldermen voted and approved that large plan back in April of 2023. So what you're being asked to vote on is the 7 pages of potential things that we would look to do to make Milford more resilient. Because we've already approved, the Aldermen already approved the entire plan. So these items are various projects that are either in the works, in process, or things that we would like to do to add resiliency to the town if federal dollars or local dollars became available.
I guess, but my question is, if we've already voted on the plan, and I guess adopted the plan, the 429-page plan, 100 pages of which apply to Milford, why are we being asked to vote on an update?
Because the federal government that requires the hazard mitigation plan and the community rating system service both require that there be an annual update to make sure that the towns are reviewing that plan and keeping it alive and paying attention to it.
I get the requirement of giving us an update, but why do we have to vote on the update? Couldn't you just give us the update and then we would have the update? Why vote on the update?
We're asked to show that the plan is been reviewed by the governing body of the town.
So that presupposes that we have some familiarity with all 49 projects that are listed here on this 7-page attachment that we got the day before Thanksgiving, and we're being asked to give our consent to these 49 projects? Is that what we're doing here?
No, you're giving your consent for the list that these projects, should funding become available, the folks who they're towards, either Public Works or IT or another department, would then come to the town and say, hey, I'd like to write a grant, or come to the Alderman and say, I'd like to write a grant for this. Will the Board of Aldermen give us approval to write this grant? This is not approving any of these projects.
Well, I mean, it's got 49 listed projects that we're being asked to vote on here. I just did some quick math as we were sitting here. I think it's roughly $61 million in projects that, I mean, I've read the little synopsis as best as I could. They seem nice. I don't really know the details of any of them, but for example, some of them say city budget. And there's a column here that says potential funding sources, and some of them, maybe half, say city budget. Is it then the contemplation of this update that the city will be funding some portion of these $61 million in projects that's before us here?
It's the contemplation that there was no other funding source at the time this document was written, and that if there's a need for this project and the aldermen found it to be important enough, they would fund it.
I would note that kind of jumping ahead on the last 4 projects, seem to be number 45, number 46, number 47, number 48. Three out of those last 4 in the estimated cost say TBD, and the potential funding source for each one of those also says TBD. I guess that means to be determined. And as well, number 48 seems to talk about taking effect in November of 2027 through March of 2029, which isn't even in this budgeting cycle. Can you explain why we should be voting on something that doesn't have a cost, doesn't have a funding source, and is supposed to take place in the future?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Alderman Healy.
If Alderman Smith would allow me. Thank you, sir. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Smith. A part of this is, again, this is the program here, the document. It is 449 pages, does relate to Milford. and part of my background in dealing with emergency management in a different capacity in full-time employment, we do need to update the emergency management plans, the comprehensive plan, as it's identified. There are specific people dutifully charged full-time in Milford. Our fire chief is the emergency management director. Under him is the deputy director, which is Bill Richards. And I've had conversations with him on this since I am chair of Public Safety and Welfare Committee also, and reviewed this document and had substantive conversations with both of them in my role as liaison also. So what we're doing is we're updating the emergency management all-hazard plan for the city of Milford, our component part, but we dutifully share on the regional basis with all the municipalities that are identified a shared responsibility so that we can share assets, we can use programs. Something that may impact Milford in terms of a hurricane may not have the same effect in North Haven and Wallingford, but we would be able to rely on them in mutual aid conceptually. So the things that are identified for us are things that all department heads within the city are looking to make improvements to mitigate hazards of all types and what our exposures might be. And then those programs would come back to this board for approval for funding, be it through state and federal also. And a large part of what has been done previously, like with ARPA, we voted on last month, and the fire department received new assets from that, was from federal funding. So I don't think we need to get lost in the weeds relative to this. You can have a substantive conversation with the fire chief, with the deputy director, Bill Richards, who's been a lifelong resident and city employee for Milford, and get to some other comprehensive understanding for this. But I think we could move the question before us this evening. Thank you. I'm certainly willing to spend time with you if you'd like to discuss this further and learn more about it.
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Alderman Smith.
For example, in item number 11, it says identify appropriate lands near the city's transfer site on Orinoco Road for the purposes of disaster debris management. Previously identified site no longer available. Alternative sites to be assessed and recommended, and the estimated cost, it has $1,300,000. Well, to identify a site doesn't strike me as though it should cost $1.3 million, and you could probably, it seems to me, talk to any commercial real estate agent in town, and they would identify the sites. It's just reading it in the synopsis that's here doesn't make too much, it doesn't make any sense. And in the line item immediately above it, number 10, the last line says $500,000 additional funds needed. It sounds like we're voting on something that's going to increase the estimated cost of $2 million by another $500,000. And Mary Rose, am I reading that wrong? I mean, does it not say that? It's just on those two items.
Yeah, if I may, Steve Johnson, Assistant Public Works Director. This action tracker update that you're all looking at for these 7 pages was an update that we had done in June of this year. So it's a single point in time. And there admittedly has been a number of changes, including to item number 10, where we've secured additional funding through Representative Frank Smith through the Urban Act Award. So we fully funded that project. So all of these various projects, these roughly 50 projects, are just specific projects that the Hazard Mitigation Committee has identified as potentially beneficial for Milford. It's not committing Milford to any one of these in terms of moving forward with them, funding them. It's just identifying. So if the need arises, we can go back to a document saying, yes, we felt that this was important, or some iteration of it, so it can be a starting point to work towards resolving whatever the issue might be. Some of these issues have been identified year after year, but we haven't done anything to move forward on them. So it's just keeping them in our radar so we know how to respond when these incidents arise. And to your question, on the debris management site, I believe the estimated cost of $1,300,000 reflects back to a prior hope that the city had to work out a debris management site that may have cost in that arrangement, in that ballpark, that didn't come to fruition. So it's just been a placeholder since then. Right now, in the event of a wide-scale emergency, a hurricane or otherwise, in order to qualify for FEMA reimbursements, we have to have an approved debris management location to be able to put all of the debris that we're collecting. It has to be separated, it has to be weighed, identified, so there's a very exhaustive process. We went through it in a very small scale during August 2020 Storm Ida with the efforts that we ended up being successful, but we had to cobble that together with some minimal space behind Public Works to be able to store all the wood, meet all the FEMA compliant documents, and submit for reimbursement.
In number 11 then on that one.
Mr. Chairman? I apologize, but I believe there was a motion by Alder Healy to move the question. I don't know if that was addressed.
Is there anybody else, any other alderman want to speak on the subject, on the discussion of the motion? Alderman Pacelli?
I have through you, Mr. Chairman, to Ms. Palumbo. I have a question again about what we're doing here as part of this motion at this point. I recognize Alderman Smith is going through item by item, but can you just clarify that this is essentially, I may be putting words in your mouth, but this is essentially a wish list. It was a list that had been presented at some point in the past to this board, or a version of this board that was approved, and now on an annual basis we're revisiting that list with perhaps certain minor changes that have been made and presented at this point, and we're taking no action on spending any money, approving any projects. It's just a matter of approving the essentially the list and giving authority in the future if these issues occur for someone to go forward to try to obtain grant funds and then come before us to determine whether or not we're going to approve that, right? So this is a rote pro forma annual event where we're just going over this list. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
Okay. Well, then I guess on the discussion and related to the motion to move the question, I am in favor of moving that question.
Mr. Chairman, if I could comment on the motion to move the question.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I sense here that what you're doing is you're basically shutting down debate. I have questions on all 49 line items here. I can see that some people don't even want to talk about it. $61 million worth of spending, just want to vote on it. That what tends to happen on these kinds of things is when the day comes when somebody actually wants concrete money, they come back to us and say, oh, you've already voted on it before. You've got commitments now. I think it's incumbent on us to know about these things and ask the questions. I would definitely object to the Board of Aldermen shutting down discussion on a document that is over 429 pages long, at least 100 pages of which apply to Milford, 7 of which pages are in front of us as summaries covering $61 million, and we're simply going to vote on it. I would strongly object to that and suggest that motion to call the question be defeated, and that we do our job here. We're supposed to be the Milford legislative body, the deliberative body. I suggest that we deliberate and find out about these things rather than just voting on it. It's only $61 million. What's the difference? I object to that.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know it's been your philosophy in the past that there should be a further discussion before we passed or moved on a vote. So I ask that, I know there's several people here that do have questions, and it's awfully quick to move the question after only one person has really spoken. So I appreciate what you've done in the past toward that. But I do have a question for Mary Rose Palumbo. Good evening, Mary Rose and Steve. Of all the projects that this represents, can you just not identify, but just maybe guesstimate how many projects were completed out of this plan? And no, just a guesstimate.
Okay, through you, Mr. Chairman. I know of at least one that's complete and probably 10 or 15 that are somewhere in the process.
Okay, out of that one completed and out of the ones in the process, what is the cost that the city had to incur because they were not either covered by city budget or because they weren't by federal funds, ARPA funds, or state funds and grants and so forth?
Through you, Mr. Chair. I know the Adams Avenue pump station has been completed. It took us over 2 years to get a generator to put in that station. The backlog on generators for pump stations is significant.
Would that have cost to us?
I believe that was ARPA funds.
Yeah,
Could be wrong.
that was ARPA funding.
ARPA funds or cost of the city?
No, ARPA.
Okay, so my question is, out of all those projects that were completed, or the number, I don't know what the number is, what has been the cost to the city at this point?
I would venture to say, without having specific numbers, it's very minimal in percentage compared to the overall. Because I think the past goals of the city has been to leverage grant funding whenever and wherever possible. So whether it's dredging of the harbor, whether it's some of the CDBG DR projects, which are listed in here.
And I appreciate that, that you do try to get as many grants and et cetera. But the issue is, can you guesstimate what we as a city has expended on the plan?
I don't have that number here right now.
Because when you say a percentage of what? A percentage of the total amount that is estimated here?
It'd be a low percentage.
What the estimate is on this document right now. So if you're talking, I don't know if Alderman Smith had indicated the fact of $61 million. So you're talking about a small percentage of the $61 million? And if it's a small percent, what percent? 10% of that? 5% of that?
Yeah, my guess would be between 5 and 10%.
Because that's no small, 5-10% of 61 million.
Sometimes with grants that we've leveraged, that sometimes requires a local match. And any of those grants that has come before the city and before this board has been reviewed and accepted here.
And I understand that, but we don't have that number as to what the city at this point was responsible for. And that would be a good number to know as to what this grant or what this plan is costing us at this point in time. I would like to know that. I don't know if my colleagues would, but just to know what the percentage is, if it's on a percentage basis of the 61 million or what that number is. So if you can provide it at some point in time, I really would appreciate it. Or Peter can, I don't know where that lies. Thank you.
One small item that I just saw Mary Rose when she flipped the pages. I'm not sure which item number it's at.
Are you reading that font from that far away?
Well, we've got a bigger page.
Oh, okay.
Tree management software. We had a placeholder for $100,000 for tree management software and inventory on this plan. And it's been a long-standing one for several years. It was further back. And it was listed, I think, for $100,000. Tonight, before the board, is a a software agreement proposal with Davey Tree, of which would allow us to implement some of our own tree management software for $3,600 for 1 year. So,
And that would be on the cost of the city?
yeah, and that was budgeted, that was approved per our local existing budget for this year.
Thank you. But I still would like to, if we can get a number, hands on a number, I'd like that, please. Thank you.
Alderman Jenkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, my understanding, based on the questions that were asked and answered tonight, is that we are not being asked to vote to approve these items and their dollar amounts, and that should these projects come to fruition, they would come before this board for approval. So if that is the case, I share the fears of Alderman Smith, Alderman Vitale with what these expenses would be. I think that if we simply added a line to this at the end that said, should the funds be available via city budget or grants or other, based upon future project approval by the Board of Aldermen, and it would ensure that we're not, with the fears of my colleagues, we are not putting our stamp of approval on projects at a dollar amount at a future date that is undetermined with an undetermined amount. Well, I know there's a motion on the floor, so my question would be...
Alderman Jenkins, if you want to amend the motion, you may.
Okay.
You can put what you said in the form of a motion.
Yes.
Can we have can I call for a 5-minute recess before we move forward with these items? Thank you.
5-minute recess.
was a dollar associated with that. Yeah.
I don't remember
Yeah, I wouldn't quote the dollars.
Alderman Healy, you wanted to withdraw your motion?
Yes, and through you, Mr. Chairman, I would withdraw the previous motion based on our caucus. Thank you.
Okay, Alderman Jenkins?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I would like to propose an amendment to the language of the motion to read, as is, and adding the sentence at the end, or the comment at the end, should the funds be available via city budget, grants, or other, based on future project approval by the Board of Aldermen.
Second.
We have an amendment, motion, and a second. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Alderman Pacelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to City Attorney Bertram. In light of what we as a board are being asked to do by adding such language, does that, in your opinion, affect what it is that we are in fact trying to do today in a negative manner, or is that something that the City Attorney would find appropriate?
Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Pacelli, no, that has no impact. Again, I think that captures the concerns, but it doesn't impact our report. The CRS Section 510 report is what's required from the federal government for our continued participation in the community rating system, which sets a report card, if you will, and helps set the flood insurance program. I'm sure Mayor Rose can speak for a long time on that, but no impact.
Thank you.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you. I would assume common sense would have it that every one of these projects would come to us for approval anyway. But the point is, to have it in the motion just adds clarity to it and more consistency that we are the governing body and that it should come to us, even though it's understood. But I applaud Alderman Jenkins for that addition.
Any more discussion on the amendment? Alderman Federico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I would just like to thank Ms. Palumbo and Mr. Johnson for coming here tonight and answering our questions. I'm clear, and I'm clear with your explanations, that this is a report. We are required as the Board of Aldermen to give our approval of the report, and that we are only authorizing a report, and we are not authorizing $61 million in new spending for the city, or even a portion of that. We're not authorizing any new spending, and I thank Alderman Jenkins for adding the amendment that makes it even more clear. So, thank you.
Is there any more discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. On the original motion. Any more discussion on the original motion? Alderman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the amendment that just passed, but I don't think that addresses all of the concerns of this report. I note that the very language of the before us authorizes the mayor and certain other people to take all steps necessary, including signing all documents to effectuate said program. And there are 49 line items in here that seem to have some kind of amendment, change, update. Nobody wants to talk about what those 49 things are. Maybe every other member of the Board of Aldermen knows what all the parameters of all 49 of these programs are, all $61 million, and everybody but me knows that. I am not familiar with these 49 programs. I am not familiar with this $61 million. And I appreciate the fact that this is supposed to come back to us in the event that any of this is actually going to become a program of the city. But there is this language in here authorizing the city to take all steps necessary, including signing all documents to effectuate said program. I don't think this has been well considered. I think it was dropped on us the day before Thanksgiving. I don't think it's been reviewed in any detail by this legislative body. I don't think it should pass, and I'm going to be voting no. Thank you.
Motion was made to move the question, and I had everybody, all the aldermen, an opportunity to ask their last question. I'm going to put the motion to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Roll call vote, please, Madam Secretary.
Alderman Archiola?
Yeah.
Alderman Bevan? Alderman Casey?
Yes.
Alderman Federico?
Yes.
Alderman Fowler?
Yes.
Alderman Healy?
Yes.
Alderman Jenkins? Alderman Marlowe?
Yes.
Alderman Mulrennan?
Yes.
Alderman Pacelli?
Yes.
Alderman Smith?
No.
Alderman Vitro?
Yes.
Alderman Vitale? Alderman Willis? 13 yes, 1 no.
13 yes, 1 no. The motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Alderman Healy.
Just for the record, for you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Smith, he indicated in his last prior statement about this matter that no one in this legislative body has reviewed it. I have reviewed this document, all 449 pages of it prior to this meeting, and I was away over the holiday weekend also. And I do have expertise in this particular field also, and did review the documents, and so I take exception to your characterization that no one on this legislative body reviewed or is familiar with the documents. Thank you.
I'd like to comment back, Mr. Chairman, if I can. I take exception to your comments, Alderman, because I was referring to the body as a whole, and I'd be happy to sit down with you and find out the depth of your knowledge on this. You didn't share it with me beforehand.
Point of order, this
You're
is not
saying
a
that
discussion
now,
on a motion.
so I take exception to your comments.
Point of order. This is not a discussion on a motion. The motion is closed.
The motion passed. We'll move on to agenda item 8B. Alderman Pacelli.
Agenda item 8B, Board of Aldermen approval is requested for the attached Master Software Services Agreement between Waste Tech and the City of Milford, and to authorize the Mayor, Public Works Director, and City Attorney to take all steps necessary, including signing all documents to effectuate said agreement.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Federico.
Mr. Chairman, through you to the mayor and his team, could we get just a quick synopsis of what this agreement is for? Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Federico. Rob Harrington is here this evening. He can speak to this agenda item.
Good evening. So a quick synopsis. So this is a technology that we'll be adding to the trucks. It's going to help us improve our collection, our daily collection through optimizing the routes, potentially saving anywhere from 10 to 12% just on fuel costs alone, as well as addressing our upcoming retirements. About 50% of the department's going to be retiring in the next 3 to 5 years. Obviously, when they leave, it's difficult for them to, depart the information that they have as far as the routes, which way to go. So this will allow us to basically, once someone becomes proficient at the truck, you throw them in the truck and they'll be able to pick up any route in the city at any time. There will be the learning curve will kind of go away, so onboarding employees will become a lot quicker. And also give us ability to have real-time tracking as well as collecting data. Right now our data collection is, for lack of better terms, kind of archaic. And this will allow us to have real-time data as well as real-time either mispicks or illegal contaminants, and be able to go out there immediately and just build a better community outreach program through education. So with this, we'll be able to complete our daily collection in a quicker manner, as well as the city obviously grows, it will help us grow with it.
Mr. Chairman, through you, I'd just like to mention that Rob Harrigan is the foreman of the sanitation department, and this is to make the sanitation division more efficient. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Harlow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, good evening.
Good evening.
I see the costs here and this is for the software, correct?
Correct.
is there any other costs associated with this, hardware costs or stuff that needs to go in the truck? Anything else?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman. So we also would have to buy the iPads, but that was already, when we asked for the money back in our budget, that was already configured into it. So that if you look at the budget that we have, the $40,500 includes everything that we need to start for this year.
Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Alderman Bevan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm looking at page 22. It's just the pricing per proposal. I see that they gave us a discount, 10%. Is there any way that we can go back and negotiate maybe a 20%?
So during the normal contract, it was based off of how many years that we would sign the contract for, is based off the discount. However, I can go back and I could ask to see if there was any way that they could.
Okay, thanks.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Evening, Rob.
Good evening.
Thank you for the job you're doing. I really appreciate it. Just kind of a point of information. Is this project part of one of the projects that we just discussed in our plan? Okay.
No.
Good. Thank you.
Yep.
Any more discussion on the motion? Alderman Federico.
Mr. Chairman, through you to the Finance Director, if I may ask, is this, are these amounts that were in the budget? Or how does this impact our budget?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Federico, can you refer me to which costs you're looking at and what page?
Page 22 under 8B.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Federico, I would defer or ask Steve Johnson if he recalls if any of these yearly costs were put into the budget.
Yes, through you, through the chair. In the last approved budget for the solid waste division, we had approved a line item 570190 for computer, and it was combined, we requested $40,500, which was a combination of both the software plus the iPads that would be purchased to be installed in the truck. So we anticipated this as an entire capital outlay.
Excellent, thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Pacelli, agenda item 8C.
Thank you.
Agenda item 8C, Board of Aldermen approval is requested for the attached master software as a service agreement between Davie Resource Group, Inc. and the City of Milford, and to authorize the Mayor, Public Works Director, and City Attorney to take all steps necessary, including signing all documents to effectuate said agreement.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Marlowe.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Hi, Steve. Just, again, was asked that with the last proposal that was just before us, could you just give us a little understanding of what this is?
Yes, thank you. So presently, the way we keep the tree crew division within Public Works, part of our Parks and Highway division, manually keeps track of trees that we are either pruning, removing, or removing stumps. and they're paper copies that we keep track of. Our current way of tracking this is in our complaint system as part of Municity. It's really a adaptation of a permitting software that Public Works uses for keeping track of complaints. Complaints is an effective way of managing our 200 plus miles of tree-lined streets. And as tree wardens, we are bound to try to preserve and protect our roadside beauty. Doing it in paper, I probably have to date probably 900 different trees, activities that we have dealt with just this year. And going back, these get recorded back into our complaint system, so we can go back and review if somebody complained about a particular tree, what do we know about it, what do we do about it, and when did we do it. And sometimes that comes up in terms of dealing with potential insurance claims that might happen. And the tree management software that we've identified is a software that the city of New Haven is using, and it's been very effective for them. It allows us to have a tree management software where we can actually record what we're doing at any particular address with any particular species of tree, and then also have callbacks, so we can set, okay, in 6 months we want to review this tree if we're monitoring something that we have some concerns about. It's a way of documenting, and it's doing our due diligence as a city that we're being responsible to the urban tree canopy that we have and managing it more effectively. We're not managing effectively on paper right now, so.
Mr. Chairman, just a follow-up. Just a follow-up. Would this be expanded to open space, keeping track of those trees as well? Do you see that happening?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm glad you asked it. One of the grant programs that the city participated on with your approval was accepting an America the Beautiful grant, where we did an inventory of all of our arboretum trees on the public spaces on the green, at City Hall here, at the North Street Pond, Parsons area, and a condition of each of those trees and species. All that data, it was in another program that was going to be more expensive, and it was becoming more expensive to renew that, and we opted not to renew it because it wasn't providing us the best bang for the buck, and we were being charged for features that this includes for less money. And we've already exported that data out of that software, and we can import it into this software here.
Thank you. If I could just follow up one last thing, is just, do you see someone has to input all this now, right, into the program? Do you see that you're going to need additional staff for that?
No, and here's why. Right now, our staff is keeping track of all this manually right now. We're writing it on paper. They're transcribing it to another piece of paper. They're handing it into the office. They're putting it into the computer. And they're taking separate pictures sometimes, so we have redundant processes going on. Also, what was approved in the budget, not only for this software, we also put in monies for iPads. So we can then, when we're out in the field, we can take a picture of the tree, we can document all of the conditions of the tree right in the air. That data then gets automatically inputted directly into the software, so we're not having to re-input all this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Alderman Archeolo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I just have a quick question. You mentioned a complaints kind of database. Is that connected to the DPW work order form that you guys have on your site? Is that one and the same?
Well, it's not one and the same, but what happens when we get those online complaints in, those are again transcribed and put into the complaint system, so it's not a direct feed. So there's a lot of room for improvement in terms of efficiency. This is one step in that direction.
Thank you very much.
Any more discussion on the motion? Alderman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. City Attorney stepped out. This might be a question for him. I see at the very beginning of the document it says that this This agreement is effective as of July 19th of 2024. You're asking for authorization on December 2nd. How come?
I've been endeavoring to get this before you, and there's a lot of priorities in the city, and I will always try to adapt to what the issues are. What I will be doing, and I've already advised Davey Tree Software that I was going to be before you with hopeful to be approval of this software agreement, and that I would just have them update their proposal. The benefit of working with Davey is once we secure the price for the software, as they have other price increases throughout coming in the future, we're locked in, we're frozen at this particular price. So that's a benefit working with Davey. But in terms of the time frame, I can't answer that, but I'm glad I'm here tonight.
But the point is that this contract wasn't actually effective on July 19th. It's not going to be effective until...
Correct.
Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Steve. Rob, thank you very much for your answering all our questions. Alderman, agenda item 8D and 8D have been postponed, so we'll move on to agenda item 8F. Alderman Pacelli.
Thank you, Chairman Vitro. Agenda item 8F, Board of Aldermen approval is requested for the attached Bank of America third-party and joint payee check deposits indemnity agreement in the City of Milford, and to authorize the Mayor, Finance Director, and City Attorney to take all steps necessary, including signing all documents to effectuate said agreement.
Second. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Casey.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I guess to the town attorney, city attorney, you can explain what is this and why we're voting on it.
Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Casey, right church, wrong pew. I'm going to defer to the Finance Director.
Oh, I can redirect my question, I guess.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Casey, to summarize in simple language this agreement, we recently had our annual review with Bank of America, and they already have been accommodating the city, allowing us to deposit checks into our bank accounts. The most common example is for the tax collector, when the payee is listed as tax collector, City of Milford, or Milford tax collector. They've made accommodations to allow these checks to clear and be deposited into our account. So in order to continue this accommodation, they presented this standard indemnity agreement. It's been presented to all of their clients, and they've asked that they sign it. And basically, it says that if for some rare reason there's an issue and we need to refund the check, that it's the responsibility of the city to make the refund, that we can't ask the bank to refund the money. Thank you.
In other words, like if somebody mistakenly sent a bill to Milford, but they really meant to spend it to New Milford, then the bank is off the hook.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, Alderman Casey, yes, that's a perfect example. If they meant another Milford, like Milford, Massachusetts, for example, it would be the city's responsibility to refund that. We could not go back to the bank to handle the refund. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Pacelli, agenda item 8G.
Agenda item 8G, Board of Aldermen approval is requested for the attached memorandum of understanding for Tudor Road remediation and renovation project, and to authorize the Mayor, Finance Director, and City Attorney to take all steps necessary, including signing all documents to effectuate said agreement.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Marlowe.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to the city attorney. I wonder if you could just give us a brief understanding of what this is about.
Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Marlowe, sure. Somewhat jumping off of our last meeting, this is the ARPA funds. This is the state and local fiscal recovery funds. As you know, back when those funds were made available to state and local municipalities, each municipality that was awarded or received funds had a certain period of time to expend those funds, to obligate those funds. I'll use that word, not expend. What's before you, this item and the next item, are two projects, and you'll look in the audience here tonight. That's the ARPA working group that was formed right about the time that ARPA funds were given to the city. And they were tasked, and they can fill you in terms of how projects were identified that met the criteria for use of ARPA funds. What's before you are these two projects which have not yet been obligated, i.e. not under contract. The deadline is 12/31/24. What we're received guidance from federal government is that interdepartmental memorandum of understanding, i.e. a resolution and memorandum of understanding from this legislative body, constitutes an obligation, which will then allow us to retain those funds to complete these projects for the next 2 years. When I say two projects, the renovations at 1 Tudor Road and Department of Health and Human Services, or Department of Health Infrastructure. So those projects have not yet been completed. I think that Ms. Swift has some more details in terms of what projects have been completed, the total allotment of funds received by the city, that the working group got together, identified, approved, and completed. These are the two projects that have not yet been completed or obligated for purposes of earmarked, so that if they're not obligated by virtue of these MOUs, the money would have to be returned.
Thank you. I guess I just wanted to clarify for myself, because I am involved on the building committee for one of these projects, and I know that some of the ARPA money has been used. And my understanding is that we want to do this because other funding for that project is still being waited on, correct? I don't know if that's the right term or not, but that's basically, we're waiting for some other funding that's tied to this project. And we want to make sure that we still have the availability of using this ARPA money to work for the project.
Correct. This is, Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Marlowe, this is belts and suspenders, making sure that it's been obligated. And by obligated, meaning this legislative body approves this MOU saying, okay, we are going to, this project, the renovation, you will then take your deadline to use the ARPA money from the end of this month to 2 years from now.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I don't know if this is appropriate time or not. If anybody wanted an update on this project, where we stand, I'll leave that up to you, or I can do it later on.
When are you going to do it?
Well, I could do it under new business, I guess, or something. All right, I'll do it right now. Thank you. I just wanted to give an update to the rest of the board where we stand on this project. And originally, a committee was formed about a year and a half or so ago to do renovations to the old St. Gabriel School, which is the Tudor Road project. It's referred to as Tudor Road project, and the city ultimately purchased that property, and the Boys and Girls Club will have a long-term lease for that building. We, at that time, were told we had the ARPA funding and that we also would have
a federal grant, a HUD funding to work on that project as well. Between the two, it was going to be roughly $4 million worth of funding that was available for that project. So the committee was formed. We hired an architect, and we had plans, and all that is still the same. We did some of the work, the abatement work, and some of the demolition work in the building to better prepare. In the meantime, though, we are still waiting for the other funding. So from our standpoint, it's going to make more sense to wait until that funding is in place, and we'll get a better value. So we want to make sure we don't lose this ARPA funding. So real brief of where we're at.
Thank you, Alderman Marlowe. Any more discussion on the motion? Alderman Federico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the city attorney. Is that December 2026? That's the next deadline, right? Is that a hard deadline?
Yes.
Okay.
If this is not approval, you'll see if you have any interest that these MOUs, these interdepartmental obligation type agreements are all over the state. I would say the country, just because a lot of municipalities are coming up against this deadline, and they've identified projects that they haven't gotten to yet. So this is just giving more time for them to do that. So yes, the federal government has given this additional 2-year window to expend those funds. I don't imagine there'll be any more deadlines. And again, it's to obligate the funds. So it's really, how are you defining obligate? It's not to spend, it's to obligate. So there is no contract for, say, for example, the Department of Health infrastructure. There's not even a site identified yet. It's not a contract. All those things that would have the normal, I would say, legislative required approvals, if there's indemnification, expenditures, would all have to come back to this board. More than likely for your approval. It's just simply preserving the right to access these funds.
Okay, and I'm completely in favor. I just want to understand what happens on December 31st, 2026. We have to have spent all of the money by then? And the buildings need to be completed?
Yes, we have to obligate it.
Obligate it now.
Spend.
And wait 2 years to do the work?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Alderman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess to the city attorney, on this first project here, the $1.5 million, is there any city participation in this? Is there any city obligation in this, or is the project 100% funded through the ARPA program?
Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Smith, I don't want to confuse the answer. This renovation at this property is an assemblage of multiple grants, devoid of city dollars, but there's federal grants also involved. So 1 million, the money's here, doesn't do the whole project. It's more than that, but there's, I believe, and I'll defer to Alderman Morrow, I think it's 2.5 million, 2.5 as part of another federal grant that was secured several years ago, maybe shortly after COVID or pre-COVID, but no city dollars.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Pacelli, agenda item 8H.
Agenda item 8H, Board of Aldermen approval is requested for the attached memorandum of understanding for Health and Human Services infrastructure, and to authorize the mayor, finance director, and city attorney to take all steps necessary, including signing all documents to effectuate said agreement.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Marlowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess it would be through you to the mayor. I didn't see on here a dollar amount.
for the grant. And I see we want to set up, a separate fund for that. And the auto, oh, okay, I'm sorry, I missed it, the amount. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm in the, I thought this was for the police. Okay, I'm sorry, my apologies.
You thought it was 8I?
I did, yes.
Any more discussion on agenda item 8H? Alderman Federico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you to the mayor and the administration. So I understand on the Tudor Road project, there's a committee. I wanted to know who's the lead and how do we ensure that this project gets done by December of 2026?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Federico. This is a project that we're currently working on, and what's before you tonight is to preserve the $3.5 million of Milford City ARPA money in order to start this project. We want to combine the Milford Health Department with the Human Resources Department in one building. So we're in the process of identifying, looking at different locations. So we're currently working on this, and what would be done by the end of this time next year.
Okay. Oh, just a year? Just in 1 year?
Well, in order to start the project.
Right.
It may not be complete, but I'm sure it'll be started by then.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chair, just one small correction. With this money, the original allocation by the ARPA working group was, I think, 3.3, 3.4. If you turn to page 4 of the proposed MOU, it's now taken, the working group took excess monies, projects that came under budget, because to identify a site and build a new structure, that wasn't, I think the group felt that it wasn't sufficient, so they took monies left over from projects that did need it and added it to that. I'm sure folks from the working group would add to it, but the total project funds that we're seeking your approval is 4.977 to help build the infrastructure. That's the remaining ARPA funds that we're seeking the MOU for.
Alderman Arciolo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you to the mayor. Just to talk about something that Alderman Federico mentioned, is there a committee for the Tudor Road project? And if so, who is in charge of the committee?
You mentioned Tudor Road, Alderman Arciolo. There is a committee for Tudor Road.
Forgive me, I'm sorry, I said the wrong thing. Yeah.
No, there is no committee for this particular project.
Okay, forgive me, I misspoke. Thank you very much.
Alderman Mulrennan.
Thank you, Chairman Vitro, through you to the mayor. So I know there's no committee, but is there a plan to have a building committee? I mean, it's a big undertaking, so has there been some consideration about organizing a building committee? To Alderman Federico's point, to be sure that we're able to spend this money towards that, to have some movement and having that committee.
Right now, I've been working with Director Deepa Joseph and Director Chris Saley, and we've had several meetings discussing the project. So at this point, it's just the three of us.
Any more discussion on the motion? Alderman Fowler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, just a question for the public about where do we think that this new facility might be built? And just to confirm, we have to get the project done by December 31st, 2026? Good.
Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Fowler, yes, we've got to spend the money in 2 years. We've got to obligate it in 28 days?
Right.
9 days?
Yeah, so complete the full project.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, just wanted to make sure. And location, do we, for the facility? I don't know. I'm sorry.
No, I don't know location, but I'm not the right person to ask.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, Alderman Fowler, we've been discussing different locations. The possibility of Wasson Field has been part of a long discussion. Milford Academy, or the Academy, I should say. There's some room there, potentially, along with Siemens Lane was identified as a potential. But we're still, going over the pros and cons of each location.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Marlowe.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to the City Attorney. I just heard you said that the project had to be completed by the end of next year, but that isn't...
No, 2 years.
2 years. 2 years, okay. I'm sorry, I thought you said the end of next year.
Do you want the job? No?
Chairman Vitro.
Alderman Moranen.
Thank you, Chairman Vitro. To the city attorney, just for point of clarification, the money, the 4.9, needs to be spent by December 31st, 2026, but not the whole project itself has to be completed. I mean, some of the language is confusing me in terms of that.
We have to spend the money or
Right.
we lose the money.
The project is going to be more than.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the project. The project is, hopefully it comes in at 4.9. If it costs more, then we'd have to come back and we would do the east wing and Deepa's office would be the west wing.
Okay.
Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Pacelli, agenda item 8I.
Agenda item 8I, Board of Aldermen approval is hereby requested for the attached resolution regarding establishment of accounts related to the Milford Police Department, ARPA Auto Theft and Violence Grant.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Marlowe.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the mayor. Mayor, now I'll ask. I didn't see a number associated, a dollar amount associated with this, and I don't know if anyone from the police department is here to explain what this would really go to.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Marlowe. In June of 2023, this board voted to accept approximately $30,000 in ARPA funding to cover personal costs related to auto theft and violence prevention. So this item would simply set up the project account so the funds can be deposited. And the Milford Police Department obviously couldn't be here, but our Finance Director, Peter Aradisi, can speak to the accounting part.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, Alderman Marlowe, the amount I believe is $35,000, and the state, based on what I was provided by Deputy Chief Brian Roger, I believe the state is trying to get us the money as quickly as possible up front. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to follow up, is the only way that this money can be used is to put it into a special revenue fund? Or could it just go into the police department's general account?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Marlowe, it would be difficult, if not impossible, to put it into the police department's account because the budget has already been adopted and we may not increase it. So the only way I would say would be to put it into a special revenue fund. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Federico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the Finance Director. The Fund 76 accounts, do we see any reporting on those? I don't remember, I don't think they're in our budget books, but I don't know if they're in any other reports that we get.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Federico. Besides the annual financial report where you have the special revenue fund reported there, there are no other reports. We have the internal reports through Munis, and the vast majority of this fund, 76, are grants. One of the large components of grants belongs to the health department, for example, along with employment and training is another example, and police and fire as well, and then other miscellaneous departments who have one-time grants or grants such as this are put into the special revenue fund for the most part. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I need to look at the annual financial report if I want information on them, or do you have any other reporting you can share with the board?
It would be the annual financial report, and if you needed further details, we'd have to go into the Munis system. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Casey.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Peter. There's a requirement that the money has to be spent by a certain time period?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Casey, yes, I believe there is a date set, if I'm not mistaken, and those were on the documents. I just don't remember the exact date, but I would imagine that the police department would be utilizing the funds by the end of this fiscal year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Alderman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A question for the Finance Director. Mr. DC, can you tell me a little bit more about this Special Revenue Fund 76? A little bit more about that.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Smith. This is a special revenue fund. It's a generally accepted accounting term. There are different types of funds in governmental accounting, and special revenue is one of them. This fund predates me. It goes back many years to prior finance directors, and basically it's set up for special sources of revenue, in particular grants. So as I mentioned earlier, the health department applies for multiple grants. All of their grants are in this fund. The police department, like in this example, or the fire department, public works could receive grants. They go into this fund. And if there are other special sources of revenue, for example, years ago, this board took some of the library fee revenue that was collected out of the general fund and designated it to be put into a special revenue fund. That is this fund. There's only one special revenue fund for the city, and the number 76 is just the code in our general ledger for the fund. The full fund number is 2976, so that's where that number comes from, but it is only one fund. Thank you.
All right, and if I could, Mr. Chairman, so it's not the practice of the city to set up a special revenue fund each time there's a grant. Each time there's a grant, at least as I heard, there's a general rule, it goes into the Special Revenue Fund 76.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Smith, if it's a recurring grant that has already been approved, it would go in already. But new types of grants, new one-time grants like this example, when they come up, it's been our practice to come before the board and ask for permission to set it up in the Fund 76.
And then as well, Mr. Chairman, and what is this dedicated reserve fund that's referenced in the resolution?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that's just a general term. The use of the term reserve just means that if the money is not spent by the end of the fiscal year, this is a multi-year fund, so any residual fund balance would be carried forward into the next fiscal year and may be used. And we have used this term reserved as a result.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any more discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Agenda number 9, new business not on the agenda, which may be introduced by 2/3 vote. I don't see any of that. We'll move on to agenda item number 10, budget memo transfers. There's none of that. We'll move on to agenda item number 11, refund list. Alderman Pacelli.
Agenda item 11A, consideration of refunds in the amount of $17,965.52.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is report of standing committees. Is there any standing committee reports? Seeing none, move on to agenda item number 13, reports of special committees. Is there any special committee reports? I don't see any. Executive session, there is no executive session. Hey, can I have a motion to?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Alderman Vitale.
before we adjourn, just to take a moment to recognize the passing of our former governor, Jody Rell, and just her accomplishments to the state of Connecticut.
Thank you, Alderman Vitale. Is there a motion on the floor to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Motion to adjourn is on the table. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Madam Secretary.